in 2 weeks. And then our second quiz is December 13th. And then we are finished and we will start preparing for the final. And hopefully everyone gets a credit. You need at least a 60% cumulative to earn a credit. All right, so in your bell work packet, which is purple, let's do the first bell work together. So let's go to your bell work packet, which is purple. This is what we took our test on yesterday. So you're multiplying your numbers. So 3 times 2 or 2 times 3 is 6. And what do you do with your exponents? Add them. So how many x's do we have altogether? So 1 plus 2 is 3. And then for your y's, you have 3 plus 2, which is 5. And that would be your final answer. All right, so for our second one, let's go ahead and distribute our exponent. So everything in our parentheses, we're going to raise to the power of 2. So that would be 4 squared. And then when you multiply 2 times 0, what is 2 times 0? 0. So that would be m to the power of 0. And then n, go ahead and multiply that out. And when you multiply that out, you should get 6. All right, anything to the power of 0 is what? Anything to the power of 0 would be 1. So that would be 4 squared times 1 times n to the 6. Go ahead and figure out what 4 squared is and multiply that by 1. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. What is 4 squared times 1? 16 n to the 6. And that would be your answer. All right, any questions about that? Ooh, that sun is bright coming in the window. It's like, bam. Okay. All right, so now let's go to our notes. Let's go to page 2. And we have a chart to fill in. Go ahead and fill in the definitions of a monomial, a binomial, and a trinomial, and then fill in the examples of each one. So I'll give you a minute or two to copy that down. Okay, so a monomial, the main thing, mono means one. So this is a prefix, this means one. You have one term. So when it's a monomial, that means that there's only one term and there's no addition or subtraction. It's just one term, everything's being multiplied. So if you look here on the screen, notice that we have four terms, or we have a number and three variables, but they're all being multiplied together. That's why this is a monomial. Bi means two. So notice how we have two different terms. This is one term. This is another term. They're being added together. That's why it is a binomial. And then lastly, tri. Tri means three. And we have three terms. We have 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So, just a little bit. Okay, so then we're going to talk about the degree. So when you're finding the degree of a monomial, when it's only one term, you're going to take the sum of the exponents of all the variables. So if you have a highlighter, can you underline or highlight where it says sum of all the terms? Let me zoom in. So the degree is in the front. The degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of all of the variables. So we have to add them all together. If it's a polynomial, which means it's more than one, you take the degree of every term. So you would find the degree of all the terms, and you will find the degree of each term. And whatever the highest one is the degree of that polynomial. So this here just identifies the different types of functions we have. We have a constant function, which has a degree of 0. A linear has a degree of 1. Quadratic is 2. And then the second thing we're going to talk about today, so we're talking about three things. We're going to classify it and put it in standard form. So when you put it in standard form, can you underline where it says for standard form, you have to put them in order from highest to lowest. And then after you put it in order, the first term is your leading coefficient, but it has to be in order to identify the leading coefficient. You said what? Oh yeah, you have to watch the video. It'll be posted. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to page 3 and finish it out. So when we look at our first one, what type would you say this first one is? Do we have one term, two terms, or three terms for this first one? So I see how I have this would be 1. And this is the second one because they're separated with addition. So there are two terms. So what do we call it when it's two terms? It's a binomial. So let's find the degree of this first term. The degree of the term that I have highlighted in blue, you're going to add your exponents. Let me zoom in really close. So I'm adding my exponents. So do you see how this has a 2 and that's a 3? What is 2 plus 3? So this term has a degree of 5. And the second term only has one variable, has an exponent of 1, so the second term has a degree of only 1. So which one is higher, 5 or 1? 5. So this would be a 5th degree binomial. When there's more than one variable, you add the powers together to figure out the degree of this term, of each term. So this is a term and this is a term. So 5x squared y cubed is a term, plus 6x, that's another term. We have 2 terms, that's why it's called a binomial. And then you find the degree of each term. So this term here has a degree of 5. This term has a degree of 1. The highest degree takes the degree of the term, of the polynomial. All right, the leading coefficient is the number in front of this term. So what's the number in front for this blue, the one I have highlighted? It's a 5, so your leading coefficient is 5. That's a coincidence. They don't always match. So just because it's a 5th degree doesn't mean it has a leading coefficient of 5. All right, let's look at this second one here. Let me zoom in really close. I have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. So what do we call it when there are 3 terms? A trinomial. Good. Now let's look at each term. Notice how this first one that I have highlighted in pink, this has a degree of 5 because that's your exponent. What's the degree of this blue term? The exponent is a 9. And this one doesn't have a degree because it doesn't have an x. So this has a degree of 0. So I have a 5th, a 9th, and a 0. Which one is higher? 5, 9, or 0? 9. So my degree is 9. This is a 9th degree. So this term here, I'm going to cross these 2 out because the 9 is the highest. What is the number in front of x to the 9th? The number in front of x to the 9th is 7. So 7 would be my leading coefficient. And the last one, there are 3 different variables. However, it's just one term because there's nothing being added or subtracted. So nothing's being added or subtracted. So we call this a monomial. And to find the degree of a monomial, go ahead and put your 1 right here for the C. Add up all your exponents. Add the 2, the 5, and the 1. What is 2 plus 5 plus 1? 8. So this is an 8th degree. And the number in front is 4. So I want you to try to do, I'm going to do this first one with you. But where it says determine if it's a polynomial, can you write, has no negative exponents. So there's 2 rules. No negative exponents. And no variables in the denominator. So when we look at this first one, that's an automatic. Because that's a -2, that makes this a no. And because I'm saying no, I don't have to answer these two questions. All right, what about the second one, B? We don't see any negatives, so this one would be a yes. I don't see a negative exponent, so this is a yes. What's the highest exponent that you see? 3. And the term that has x to the third is this one here. So this one is the number, that's the number I'm going to find for my leading coefficient, because that term has the highest power. So we would say it's 2. And this is actually a trinomial because there are 3 terms. For C, is this a polynomial? That's also a yes. My degree is what? What's the exponent on this B? 1, good job. So it's a first degree. And, oh, let me go back, I'm sorry. In that last column, instead of classification, they want us to, they didn't want the leading coefficient, sorry. So for that the second one where it says classification, because that was 3 terms, we would say it's a trinomial. What kind do we have here? What do we call this? How many terms do we see here? 1 term. And what do you call it when there's only 1 term? A monomial. Okay, last one. So we have an exponent of 1. So is this a polynomial? Yes. My degree is 1, and there are 2 terms, and we call that a binomial. All right, the last thing we're going to do is on page 4, I believe. I think we're on page 4. Let me see. Nope, still on page 3, sorry. So bottom of page 3, it says, write this in standard form. When you write something in standard form, that means we're gonna arrange the exponents from highest to lowest. And that is what standard form is. So when it says in your homework and when you take your quiz in 2 weeks, it says write it in standard form, that means put it in order from highest to lowest. So when I'm looking here, I have 4 terms. I have this term, I have that term, this term, and this, let's do yellow, and this term. Okay. Which color has the highest degree? Pink, blue, green, or yellow? Which has the highest exponent? The green. So we're going to write that first. That comes first. So let's write that 2x cubed first. So we took that out. All right, now, which one has the highest degree of what's left? What color has the highest degree, highest exponent? The yellow. Does everyone see that? Because the yellow has an exponent of 2. So I'm going to write that term. I'm going to write the term that I have highlighted in yellow. I'm writing that one next. All right, now what comes next? The pink or the blue? Who says pink? Who says blue? Blue doesn't have any x's, so this actually has a degree of 0. So the next one would be the 4x. And then we have no x's. So when we look at it, notice how we go. We go from 3, everybody look at the screen. We go 3, 2, 1, none. It's in order. That's standard form. So now that it's in standard form, it says identify the leading coefficient. So let's write that. So our leading coefficient is the number in the very front, the number that's leading the train. And now that it's in order, the number that leads the train is 2. So this has a leading coefficient of 2. And what is your degree? The degree is your highest exponent. So what would be your degree? 3. All right, I want you to try to do part A by yourself. Write it in standard form. Thank you. Three. All right, so which one has the highest, which color has the highest exponent? The red or pink. So I'm going to write that one first, but notice that it's a negative in front of that. So I have to include that negative when I move it to the front. And then next would be the blue. So negative 10b squared. And then after the blue term would be what? Yellow or green? Yellow. And is this positive or a negative 5? Positive. So you have to put a plus 5b to show that that's positive. And then last is your 35. So it says identify your leading coefficient. So your leading coefficient is the number that is leading the train. And the number that is leading this train is a -1. It's invisible, but there is a -1 right here. So -1. And your degree, even though I didn't ask, I think your homework does, so I want you to get in the habit of writing your degree. Your degree is 3. Part A, this part? So we put them in order from the highest to lowest exponent. So my highest exponent was 3, so that comes first. And then the blue, the yellow, and the green.
And if you don't, you just go to the green numbers?
You always put them in order from the highest to the lowest. Highest exponent to the lowest.
What if you don't got an exponent?
Then that's the last one. All right, so now let's use this time to work on your homework. Homework 1, it is misnumbered. So notice it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes 8, 10, 20. So the ones that I covered today are the ones I have highlighted. So use this time, because we don't have that much time left, to work on the numbers that we covered today. That's what everyone should be working on.